Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Flexwork Podcast. I'm your host, Ludwig Araujo, and today we have a very special guest. So he comes from us from a world of growing businesses, selling businesses, some epic failures that he writes books about. He's a CEO and founder of Tessemae's salad dressing. Greg Vetter, welcome to the show.
What's up?
Listen, man, I just want to tell you from the very start, the first two chapters of your book, Undressed, it reads like a movie. Like I'm reading it and I'm envisioning you running and driving 50 miles, breaking the speed limit, to get to a meeting, because if you don't get to them, your seasoning is not gonna get approved, or it's insane. Did it really play out like that?
Yeah, that's actually muted a bit.
Really?
That's why there's editors.
Yeah.
They were kind of like, hey man, I don't know if you want to put all that in there.
Wow.
And I'm like, all right, I do want to put, as much as I can legally put.
Yeah.
Is basically the long and short of it. So yeah, I mean, everything that's in there is true. It's toned down a little bit because, you got to keep some skeletons in your closet, I guess.
Yeah.
But I really wanted it to be as radically transparent as it could possibly be, because when I was building stuff, there was nothing like that out there.
Right.
And I was always looking for insight or guidance or mentorship or something where someone would be like, yeah, dude, this is how bad it was.
Yeah.
And, you could get some people to talk about it, but in the grand scheme of successful CEOs and entrepreneurs, I think a lot of people try to romanticize, their journey.
Yeah.
Like they were just geniuses a majority of the time. And maybe there was one or two things they did wrong, but it really wasn't that big of a deal. And I just didn't find that helpful, because when we were in the thick of it, the only stuff I could find that gave me some guidance, they were like biographies of, wartime generals.
Yeah.
And I'm like
That's
thinking,
right.
I'm like, this is freaking organic salad dressing. Like my problems are not that bad in the grand scheme of the
We're not
world.
talking about battlefields and war here, right? Yeah.
But when you're in it and everything's on the line and your house is on the line and, food for your kids is on the line and your parents' house is on the line and investors' money is on the line, it does feel like the world is on your shoulders. And so I wrote it for a very, very specific purpose. And it was to give the unfiltered truth of how hard building something from nothing is. And hopefully people can learn from all the things I did well, because we did end up building the #1 organic salad dressing brand in the country. But also I did so much wrong. And there were so many learning lessons in there that I wanted people to learn those too, so that they could avoid all those mistakes.
In just your journey alone, in the first weeks and months of the inception of this idea, there are so many lessons.
Yeah.
One of the things that struck me was, all right, so you're working hard to figure out how to build it, how to start an LLC, and oh, by the way, your stuff has to be certified, right? And you have to figure out what kitchen you're gonna do all this stuff in. But it feels like, as you read it, it does feel like everything was fortuitous, right? Like you had luck, because everywhere you went, they might have said no a few times, but then you got them to say yeah. So what you do realize after a time, that the ball isn't really bouncing your way. You're making your own luck. And to me, that stood out as like, dude, that's the lesson here. Luck, what is it? Chance favors the prepared mind, right? Luck favors the fact that you were really hustling. You were casting a wide net. You were making phone calls. You were cold calling till you got to that yes.
Yeah.
Did you see that as part of one of the lessons that, do you even talk about that when you're, speaking in public about how you kind of make your own luck in order to be successful here?
Yeah, I think the main thing that I try and tell everybody is when you get to the end of your rope, tie a knot and hang on.
Mm,
It's one of these things where, yes, it will eventually work if you can endure.
mm,
And so a lot of what I talk about is this capacity for endurance and being able to frame it properly and understanding that today may be a bad day, tomorrow may not be a bad day.
yeah.
But you're going to need to prepare to go forever. And I think the biggest problem I see with a lot of people is they think their journey is going to be a year long or 5 years long or 10 years long. And in reality, if you're planning for a set time frame, you're not properly preparing every single day to endure. And that was really the key to our success, which was making each day as productive as possible, but also knowing that you can't burn yourself out on day 1 or day 365 or whatever day it is, because you don't know how long this race is going to be. So you got to figure out how to do your best, but also prepare for tomorrow to do your best.
Yeah.
And if you give everything on that day and then you wake up tomorrow at 10 a.m. because you're so tired because you stayed up till 3 o'clock in the morning, that's not sustainable long term.
Right. As you talk about that, I think about you doing upside down handstands, right, with the pillow, because you were waiting for that epiphany moment, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that ties into what you're saying is you're like, all right, I'm gonna do this until an idea hits me, and you didn't know how long that was gonna be. You did it,
No.
for however long it took you to eventually wake up. Oh, one day come down the stairs because you're hungry from doing handstands, and it's your lunchtime, and you go to grab the salad dressing, and it's not there. It's because your buddy stole it, came into your house and stole your stuff, which is a crazy story. But I think there's a beautiful lesson there, obviously, about you're not setting timelines here on your, like, this thing is, you got to do it until you're successful. You got to do it till you hit gold. Another lesson that I love here is, I was talking to another CEO. She actually has a beauty brand in Ulta now. And one of the things we talk about how entrepreneurs always want to do things in a certain order. And that order is, I got to get a logo. I have to get a website going. And until that, I'm not doing anything. Like, I have to do this first, then this, then the LLC. And you did everything like backwards.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about how the idea was the product, the idea was the thing, and you went, even before you had packaging, you sold this thing.
Yeah, we didn't have a name.
You didn't have a name.
We had nothing. We didn't have a bottle. We walked into the meeting with a Tupperware container, or I walked into the meeting with a Tupperware container of romaine lettuce with this dressing on it.
Yeah.
And for me, it was always, do people want it? Before I put my opinion on it, because I think so often everyone's like, well, I love it, so that must mean everyone's going to love it.
Yeah.
And it's not like that at all. You may have a great opinion. You may have a great idea. If nobody likes it, then you have nothing.
Yep.
And so for me, I wanted to know, do people love this? I think they do, right? Everybody had always loved it. We used to make it for people, Christmas gifts and everything else. I played college and professional lacrosse. My mom would bring it to tailgates. All the meatheads are sitting there crushing salad.
Yeah,
so I knew people liked it.
Yeah.
But before we kind of designed something and did all this other stuff, it was like, well, can this be a thing? And, you do hear those cliches of just take action.
Yeah.
But I really wanted to know, do people want this? And I was willing to look like a fool. And if they were going to ask a name or something, I was going to make something up. I didn't have anything at the time. But I wanted to know, do I have the ability, if I put my effort towards this, to bring it to fruition? And so, it was one of those things where let's just go until someone says no.
Yeah.
And we will strategically improvise.
Yeah.
That became a central theme of that journey, which was, okay, we have a plan. We'll see if the plan works. If the plan doesn't work, we'll change the plan and we'll just keep going until it works. Mike Tyson said it best. Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth.
Yeah.
And so, I was getting punched in the mouth every single day. And so the plan was changing every single day. But we knew we still wanted to win. We knew we still wanted to be successful. And we wanted to take it as far as we could possibly take it. And so my goal was to see, can a regular guy with no business experience, no money, no culinary background, no consumer packaged good background, take something as stupid as salad dressing, dumbest product in the world, and through pure will, turn it into something of significance. That's what I wanted to see.
Yeah.
And we did.
You did it.
And so when I'm talking to CEOs and I'm talking to entrepreneurs and I'm speaking, that's some of the stuff you don't need to invent the next AI fill in the blank. If you do great, you're probably going to be a trillionaire, but you can make it selling salad dressing. That's pretty dumb. You can do it, in blue collar work. You can do it literally with anything you can think of if you position it properly and you have a plan that you just kind of keep changing until you find that groove and you're working beautifully and seamlessly.
On a side note, I started my journey as an entrepreneur, as a photographer. So I still do photo shoots. I'm an artist at heart. So I look at your cover for the book Undressed, and I see you standing there naked with a box in front of you. Can I know whose idea was that to shoot that cover? And obviously the bruises and the arrows are all fake, but were you really standing there naked with a box for the photo shoot?
Yes. And it is actually my body. And I made sure of it because the last thing you want to do is put someone else's body on there. And then, you go to an interview and somebody goes, yeah, right, dude. Yeah. Like, that's not you.
Yeah. Yep.
But it's a funny story. So I didn't have a title. And the book was done. I'm trying to think about the title side of it. And it just consumed me. It's all I was thinking about. Yeah. So I was sitting in my sauna. It's like 4:30 in the morning. And I'm just sitting there. And it literally was like God placed that cover in my brain because that entire thing popped up in a singular vision with That's the awesome. Name, with the colors,
with the photo, with the pose and everything.
Everything. And wow. I was like, I'm sitting there having a debate with myself. I go, I'm not doing that. I'm not making that the cover of my book. I'm not going to freaking stand on the cover of this book, with a box over my junk.
Yeah.
And so I walk in and I talk to my wife and I'm like, you're not going to believe this. I had the craziest vision in the sauna. The book's called Undressed. I'm naked. I'm totally beat up. There's arrows in me. I'm standing on broken glass. And I've got this box of salad dressing where the bottom has fallen out, just like in life.
And all the bottles are on the ground.
It's trying to cover the only thing I have left. Yeah. And she goes,
beautiful.
That's the cover.
Yep.
And I was like, I don't want it to be the cover. She goes, that's it. That's it. You're going to do that. And so that cover actually limited my ability. I got a bunch of deals from groups that wanted to publish the book.
Oh, really?
And they were like, yeah, no, you can't have that cover.
Too controversial? Too risque?
Who knows? Who cares?
Who cares?
And I said, then I'm going to do it myself.
Oh,
right? Because I know the book is good because you've offered me a deal.
Yeah.
This is my story. This is my journey.
I love
This
it.
is my pain, suffering, learning lessons, and everything else. And when I look back in 20 years, that's the cover that it's going to be, whether you like it or not. And
go ahead.
so that was that.
To me, it's it's in line with everything else that's happened. At least as far as I know about your journey, your life, the businesses you started. Everything seems to be serendipitous. Like it makes sense, and that's like when you're looking at branding products and coming out with new ideas, and very rarely do you have these products and stories that all make sense. Everything jives. And for you, your mom's salad dressing, she's been making it for you and your two brothers your whole life. That becomes the business you start.
Yep.
One of the things I didn't get a sense of is yet, because I didn't finish the book, is your mother in this story. Obviously, she's the hero. She's the recipe. How has she, through the journey of starting this business, tell me a little bit about what she thought about this and how happy she was, because I'm sure she was. Like, I just need to hear a little bit from Tessemae.
Yeah. So she didn't think it was going to work.
Right.
She would always joke with me, you're so smart. You should be a lawyer. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
So we obviously kept her in the loop, and she had equity in the business, and she was our official taste tester. And she eventually was, very proud of how big we made it. But she and my dad are very interesting. And I would say a lot of my resilience and aggression and endurance and all these things that make me who I am are because my parents are really interesting, in the sense that my mom is more aggressive. So we'd be on the lacrosse field, and, I'd have the worst game of my life, and I'd come off, and, my dad go, "Oh man, you look so strong out there." I'm like, horrible.
Yeah.
I got benched. I'm like the worst player on the team. And my mom would go, "Yeah, you are. You are the worst player on the team."
Oh, that hurts.
But what it gave me was this really interesting perspective on, she was right. I was not good. I got benched. I knew I sucked, and I didn't need fluff. Now, I appreciated the unwavering support from my dad. And we joke like he's our spiritual guide and our director of good karma, because of, his life's work.
Yeah.
But my mom she's a ride or die type bitch. She is gonna help you and defend you come hell or high water, but she's also gonna give you an earful the whole way down. So, she was always there to help. My dad was always there to help. But yeah, I mean, it was funny. Probably for the first 7 or 8 years, she'd be like, there's still time. You can be a lawyer.
Yeah. Thanks, Mom.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
My partner, so we own a marketing agency here called Youngry. We also own a multi-room podcast studio down on our lower level of our office space. And that's where we host and produce other podcasts. My partner in this business started a company called Shreds, which was a supplement company that came out probably around 2010, 2011, and took it to 100 million and crashed it right around 2016, 2017. I see a lot of similarities in your journey and his journey with that company. One of the things that happens when you start to grow a business as an entrepreneur is, if you're successful in one thing, quickly you start to say to yourself and other people, I'm sure, all right, what about the next thing? All right, let's do this. Oh, we got this one flavor, lemon garlic. Let's drop 72 new flavors. Or let's switch from doing this to let's do barbecue sauce. whatever.
Yep.
Did that happen to you, and how did you handle that?
So we did a lot of innovation. A lot of our innovation was successful. But I actually had a giant fear with the Tessemae's brand that I was just going to be a one-hit wonder. And so I fought so hard to keep that thing alive, probably even past the point where it should have been kept alive, because I didn't know if I had the capacity to do something again that was going to be as impactful, as special, as energetic. And once it ended, and I began to reflect on what went right and what went wrong, this is before I wrote the book, I realized that I had willed it into existence. And I probably could have done it with any product, and I happened to choose the hardest possible product to do it with. And so now when you see the different businesses that I'm involved with, and the book or anything else, it's interesting, because when you invent clean manufacturing, when you start your own manufacturing plants, when you're in refrigerated logistics, when you're spearheading the clean eating movement before it was popular, you don't realize you're doing any of it. You're just trying to sell your product and make payroll and pay the utility bills.
Surviving. It's at some level, it's literally surviving. You're trying to
literally survive.
Yeah,
100%. And you're absolutely right. So often I see people that got lucky on their first one, and they just, this is how it worked the first time, failure.
Yeah, this
is how it worked the second, and it's like one failure after another, because the first one was, maybe it was just luck, that they think they can apply that same playbook to everything that they're involved in, and things just don't end up working out. I took a very, very different critical lens to my journey, because again, I didn't think I had the capacity to create other things that were going to be successful. And so that's my 2 cents on that.
So, one of the things that I realize when I speak to entrepreneurs, and from my own experience, to be a great leader, I don't know if this is true, but you tell me what you think. To be a founder and a creator of a business and try to take it to the next level, at some level, you need sales skills. You were an outstanding salesman before you started this. And I could tell, I mean, in the first chapter, you talk about how you cold called your way to a national food retailer and to try to get into one of their stores. When I talked to, even the last person I spoke to, she started a beauty brand. It's a lot of like sales call, like cold calling, getting hung up on, really trying to sell your business idea to that next person. Do you believe that? And as you speak to CEOs across the country and maybe around the world, do you feel like there's a fundamental need for strong salespeople to be strong CEOs?
I look at sales a little differently, because we've hired some of the best professionally trained sales guys on the planet. I think what you actually need is you need the ability to tell your story with passion and authenticity, but you also need to be able to portray that you're willing to burn the ships. And I think that's the key for perfect salesmanship as it applies to your business. And that's something that a professional salesperson will never do, because they can't burn the ships, because they're always thinking about, I need my quarterly bonus, and then if this doesn't work, I'm going to move to another brand, and I need to keep those relationships strong. If you're the CEO of something, you have to be able to look at somebody and be prepared to completely ruin that relationship so that you can achieve your objective. Now, is that wise long term? Probably not. But you're not guaranteed tomorrow. And so for us, we were just like, we have to make this work.
Yeah.
We're going to take this as far as we can legally take it to achieve the goals that we have. And really what we saw with the sales guys would be like, yo, man, you're taking this past where I'm comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we didn't care because we had a brand to build. We had payroll to meet, including that sales guys.
Yeah.
And that same level of commitment is the commitment that we would then portray to our employees. And so when I'm up in front of everybody giving a State of the Union or to investors, I'm there and they know that maybe it sounds salesy because there's a lot of energy behind it, but they know I'm all in.
Yeah.
And I'm not messing around, and I've committed everything to the journey. And if it doesn't work, I don't have a plan B. And I think there's something to be said because that can be felt.
Yeah.
No one's sitting there looking at you going, yeah, he's just a hired guy and he's going to go get another job if this doesn't work.
They know you're putting it on the line.
That's really important.
Yeah. When it comes to the Tessemae journey in particular, at one point you were valued at $300 million or so, and then you in bankruptcy and sold for about $4 million.
Yeah.
What I don't know, and if you could, if we can just get into, is what happened. How did? I mean, and I know, Greg, that you're like, what didn't happen? Like, there's probably 72 things that happened.
Yeah.
But if you could shed a light on one or two of the major pitfalls that took this thing in the wrong direction.
Investor infighting, it basically can just be summarized to investor infighting. We had 3 different groups that wanted 3 different things, and they hated each other, and they would use the chaos of one to try and get an advantage in that moment. And so the next thing we knew, we were in 3 different lawsuits, paying 3 different lawyers to defend something, right? And it was never ending. So at one point we were spending $350,000 a month on lawyers. We had hired a professional negotiator. That dude wasn't cheap.
Yeah.
And finally you get to a point where my job was to try and get everybody on the same page so that we could get the best outcome for everyone.
Yeah. What
really ended up happening was just these groups only wanted everything. So there was no negotiation to have. Right. This professional negotiator comes in and he's like, big time and this and that. And I've negotiated these deals and these deals. And I go, unless you're going to give away everything, this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
And he kind of was like, sit down, little boy.
Yeah.
Let me show you how it's done. I'm like, okay. Sure. I would love for this to work.
Yeah.
I would love nothing more. And about 6 months in, he's like, they just want everything. I go, I know. That's what I told you.
Yeah.
And so eventually we got to a place where we're like, we're just going to have to restructure this. If no one's willing to negotiate and nobody's willing to be on the same page and everybody just wants mutual destruction, we're going to have to figure this out. So initially, the restructuring was to get everybody on the same page so they would know we're not messing around. We still want the best outcome for everybody. One of the groups was an expert in restructuring, so they destroyed that process so that they could get the most for themselves only.
Yeah.
And then the next thing you know, I'm sitting in a boardroom handing over the business to somebody for, $4.5 million. And I'm like,
Wow.
how did we get here? And that old saying, pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. It just kept ringing in my head. I'm like, I'm dealing with hogs. We're all going to the slaughter. We could all just get fat together.
Yeah.
We know this thing is valuable. We know consumers love it. Sales were still great. But they just wanted everything. And then everybody was basically left with nothing.
As far as managing the business, it was you and both your brothers or just one?
Yep. So initially it was me.
Yeah.
I started the business. I was the CEO the whole time. My wife was the chief operating officer for a long time. Then we had 4 kids, and then she came back as our chief brand officer. My brother was our chief sales officer, and then my youngest brother was our kind of head of manufacturing.
Okay.
And so together, I mean, those were really the pillars of any business, right? Vision, sales, operation, and brand.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a good protection, checks and balances system to make sure everybody was aligned and we were moving together. But again, the one thing that you can't control other people. And so if one day they decide that there's so much value there that they want it all for themselves and you deserve nothing, then you better have deep pockets to pay lawyers.
Was there anything, if you can go back in time, obviously the decision was at some point, 3 years in, 5 years in, whatever, you're probably like, hey, we've got to build our own manufacturing. We got to, innovate here on clean and all natural product or whatever. Let's bring in some money because we need to do this, right? So you've done this exercise, I'm sure. If I can go back in time, what would this business look like if you didn't take outside money and try to bootstrap it yourself? The trajectory wouldn't be as big, as long as, what could you have done this without them? Is essentially the question.
Today, with everything that I know, yes.
Oh, okay.
Back then, when I didn't know anything, no.
Mm.
That was also at the peak of the consumer packaged good M&A boom. So people are selling for 10 times sales. Not EBITDA, sales. 20 times sales. Right? So people are just like, raise money, grow it to astronomical numbers, sell it for a gigantic price. And that was kind of all the recommendation and counsel we were getting at the time, which was to do that. And so, yes, if I could go back in time with the knowledge that I have today to 25-year-old Greg and say, hey, man, you're about to invent, clean manufacturing and spearhead the clean eating movement, and organic is actually going to become mainstream in a couple years. Just slowly and methodically do this. Yes, we would have slowly and methodically done it. But that's not the case.
That's not the case. What year was it, Greg, when you sold?
2021, I guess.
Okay.
Somewhere around there. It ended up being a long process where I guess it was 2021.
So when you sold and new company takes over or new organization takes over, you walk out of that meeting, I'm sure there's some dark times. This is the part of entrepreneurism that really is what the message of your book is, right? It's being forged in fire and growing back and coming back from this. Can you talk about a little bit, if you can, about this feeling and this darkness that you went through at that point and how you came out of that specifically? Because was it a, where you were like, you know what, this is it. It is what it is. Let me move forward. Or the fact that you just, had to sell your mom's recipe to somebody else, did that take its toll on you, and how did you react?
Yeah, I mean, I would say I'm a high activation guy. So I need to move, I need to take action, I need to be moving forward. So in that process, we had bought the produce division from the salad dressing business because nobody wanted it when we were out in the sales process. So we had a business that could redirect my attention. So my main focus there was, let's get that back on track, get that as large as possible so that I can have a landing pad for people that want to stay with me if they all get fired.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people left me. I learned a lot about relationships and business relationships, and people that you fight for and defend and help build up for years and years and years. They may not be there with you when you're no longer riding in a limousine. I think Oprah had a great quote of the people that ride with you in the taxi cabs, they'll be with you once you're in the limousine and then back in the taxi cab again.
Yeah.
And when we were in the taxi cab after the limo, there was not a lot of people left.
Yeah, of course.
So there was a lot of shame. I had to deal with that. I mean, my greatest fear is the fear of failure, which in reality, if you do any research on psychology, it's not the fear of failure at all. It's the fear of shame that comes from failure.
Facing these people after the fact, yeah.
Yep. But then what was really interesting is that's all your problem. That's your shame. Nobody else gives a shit.
Yeah.
That's you in public, in your own mind, worrying about unnecessary nonsense. And so what I learned a lot about my capacity to endure and withstand an onslaught from every direction and still maintain my health. And it helped me kind of narrow down what really matters in the world. And I tell people this all over the country. It's the 4 things that money can't buy, which is, your time, your soul, your health, and your children's love. And so I really made sure those were in check. And in keeping those in check, it allowed me to find clarity. And then also, I just kept reading this one quote from Joseph Campbell, who, he ended up developing the hero's journey, plotting every myth throughout civilization. And it's this beautiful quote, which is, "The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek."
Yeah.
And my cave that I was so scared to enter was failure. But once I entered it, I understood who I was and what I was capable of, and all of my fears were realized. I was no longer scared of any of those fears being realized because they were on display for the world to see.
Yeah.
And it allowed me to not wear it with a badge of honor because nobody likes to fail, but I wasn't afraid of it. That's actually why I wrote the book.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want people to come up to me, because some dude did this to me and goes, "Heard you exited, man. That's sick." And I'm like, bro,
that wasn't the exit.
It was not sick. Yes, I exited. It was not sick. It was sick to the point where I puked from stress. And so that was like ringing in my head of people thinking that I was something that I wasn't, and that I was going to have to live a lie. And I wasn't going for it.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So
first of all, one of my favorite places in the world, my favorite place to be in the world is in front of a fire pit. I love my fire pit. Me and my lady, we just bought a house recently and just got my fire pit done. And I was sitting by the fire for the first time at our new home just a few days ago. It's my favorite place to be, just sitting and staring into the fire. Your intro is about a bonfire after this event happens where you just like, it's almost like catharsism, right? Like just getting, I think your head chef, you invited your head chef and everybody who was involved in this business, and you were just kind of like burning this whole thing away. And I pictured it. To me, it's such a vivid description. So I just felt like I was there. So great job in the writing of this. You really painted that picture for me, and I loved it because I was like, this guy must have been just staring into that fire and going through all these emotions and moving to the point where you can move past that and into this next phase of your life. What does that next phase look like? Is it homegrown? Was it starting the next, CPG product company?
I really did a lot of soul searching. I hired a performance coach, and he asked me this really interesting question, which was like, what does non-ego success look like? And so what he meant was completely remove the concept of ego out of it. So you're not worried about, well, I don't want people to think I have a big ego, or, this would be this. And that. He goes, ego doesn't exist. What does success look like? It took me 2 weeks. I wrote an answer every morning because I have a morning routine I do where I write. Every morning I'd send him the answer. Every day he'd say no. 2 weeks later, I write it. And he goes, you're on to something. And what it was basically taking everything that I had learned in that journey and utilizing that for good. Now, that could be helping other CEOs and entrepreneurs. That could be writing a book, because I hadn't written a book at the time. That could be launching additional products and stuff that make me happy and make the world a more interesting place. And so that's what I've been doing. So my life now is a culmination of innovation, brand creation, brand and image consulting. And I wrote another book. It has not come out yet because I've been busy doing other stuff. But also just going on this book speaking tour and like meeting with entrepreneurs and college kids and professors and incubators and brand accelerators, and just being available to give unfiltered insight into my journey that most people are not willing to give.
Yeah. People hide behind it or are ashamed of it, or just they want to keep it to themselves because they think that they don't want anyone else to be successful. And you probably noticed that on your way up, the journey that you went through, where you would turn left and right looking for answers from people, and there probably wasn't anyone there, or there weren't too many people there to help guide you. Would that be fair to say?
That would be fair to say.
So homegrown comes to me as it looks to me as a part marketing agency / consulting agency / venture capitalism. Is what?
Yeah.
Which is kind of an innovative in and of itself. It's its own kind of thing. How long has that business now been?
We were doing it, since, well, I kind of started doing it at the end of Tessemae anyway. Companies would call and say, hey, we're really trying to get into this retailer. Do you have any insights? Can you help me? Or, hey, we're thinking about, innovating a new product. Can you help me think through that?
Mm.
So it had been going on for a while, but really what it was and is, it's the playbook that everybody tells you they have.
Yeah.
Right. Every PE group, every venture capital group, they all go, well, we have the playbook, and,
Yeah.
and we'll give it to you for 80% of your business or
Yeah.
whatever it is. And sometimes 80% is justified.
Mm.
But other times, and the reason I started it was anytime I wanted to pay people in equity, nobody wanted it.
Mm-hmm.
And then anytime I wanted to pay in cash, they wanted equity. And so I was always in this place of like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Like, just help me with the answers. I just need to solve this one problem.
Yeah.
And so the whole basis of Homegrown Brands was literally just having the playbook a la carte. So if you want us to help you develop new products, here's how you can pay us. If you want us to help sell in your product as like a sales broker type deal, here's how we can do it.
A little bit of cash, a little bit of equity.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where the pricing structure varies every single time.
Mm-hmm.
Like some people are just grinding and they just need, one piece of advice for XYZ dollars and you move on. Other people have come to me like with nothing. And they're like, I just got this idea. I want to do this thing. And you're like, so you got no brand, you got no money, you've got no experience. You just want me to do the whole thing.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah.
All right. I want 99% of this.
Yeah.
idea.
Well, okay, sure. Like I'm taking a lot, you're basically going to be like a great salesperson with an equity package. It's not going to be flipped.
Right.
So it varies, but it's one of those things where I just wanted it to be available for people because that was never available to us. And I was always looking for something like that.
I always find it interesting when you're building a company and you're reading books and you're following certain entrepreneurs. And nowadays there's tons, you look left and look right. There's 1,000 in each direction, right? Of people giving advice. Many times the advice is so esoteric. It's just like work hard, wake up at 5, like stuff like that, right? And it's like, I know.
Do these 4 things and be a billionaire.
Yeah,
You're like,
yeah. Oh, that's
I
it?
want to know. I want to be a billionaire.
That's it. That's all I got to do.
I need to do these 4 things.
So it's refreshing when people like you come along where you're like, this is this is exactly where I failed. This is exactly how I succeeded in the beginning, and then I failed, and now I succeeded again. And you're detailed in your approach, and you're transparent in your approach, which is awesome. I mean, this is what we need more of when it comes to the world of entrepreneurism, because as you're going through your journey, you need answers, and sometimes it's not just as easy as Googling it.
Yeah.
So kudos to you for doing that. Let's talk a little bit about family now, because I have 2 daughters. They're in their teens. How old are your kids? You have 4 kids, right?
4 kids, 14, 13, 11, and 9 about to be 10. So freshman, 8th grade, 5th grade, 4th grade.
Girls, boys, what's the split?
Girl, boy, girl, boy.
Okay, so you got 2 and 2. All right. So here's my question, because I'm a dad, I'm a sports dad, I'm a girl dad, and soccer was their sport. One of mine just got into lacrosse. I know you're a huge lacrosse guy. Not all of your career was lacrosse. Which parent are you on the sideline? Are you your mom or are you your dad?
I don't say. I let the kids choose what they want.
Okay.
So you're not going to hear me yelling at my kids on the sideline. If they want insights, I've come up with a hand gesture system.
Okay. Yeah.
So, for my oldest girl, she plays defense. I play defense.
Yeah.
And she was like, well, give me hand gestures if I'm not doing things correctly.
Mm.
Right. So, okay, you got to move your feet. So she'll look to me and I'm just like, that just means move your feet.
Yeah.
And
Nice.
so I have a series of hand gestures if they want them.
You're like a third base coach.
Yeah. And if they don't want them, I don't give them. And you look really good.
Yeah.
And, I do ask questions to make them think, how do you think you did today?
Mm.
Scale of 1 to 10. What went well? What didn't go well?
Yeah. Love that.
Is there anything that you need to work on this week? Did you learn anything in the game? Did something happen that made you think, man, I should do something better?
Mm.
So I do ask those types of questions, but I let them engage first. So what I try not to do is when they get in the car, be like, wow, man, that was the worst you've ever played.
Yeah.
I'm not perfect. So, there have been probably 2 times where so how do you think you did?
Yeah.
Not well. Why? Why do you think that?
The psychologist approach.
Yeah, but I do try. You're not going to catch me screaming. I am not a yelling dad.
Okay.
You'll only hear me say, good work, good hustle. I see you.
Yeah, I like that. I see you.
Yeah. And that's about it. That and some hand gestures.
It's funny how, growing up, we would watch sports and we'd be so passionate about whoever our team was, whatever sport you were into, and how excited you were. Like I was a Chicago Bulls fan, Michael Jordan, blah, blah, blah. And I would get so passionate watching those games. I've never thought I would get more passionate than when I watch my girls play soccer. It is the most passionate I've ever been about sports. Do you find the same? It is crazy. Watching them score, watching them, if your daughter doesn't move on a lacrosse field and she jukes somebody, it's like the best thing you've ever seen. It's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, you have all the feels.
All the feels.
When they do something bad, you're like, oh,
yeah.
We're going to recover. They do something great. You're like, I've never been happier in my life. Yep. It's an emotional roller coaster, to say the least.
Yep, on an average, like Saturday for your 12-year-olds to get lacrosse games. It is funny. Let's leave the people with just a few pointers. If you were to, you've spoken to tons of CEOs and tons of college students, I'm sure. Is there one thing that, if you could boil it down to one area of opportunity, let's call it that. Let's call it one area of opportunity where people can work on to make their journey go smoother, to make their entrepreneurial life more successful. Could you?
I think the one thing I tell people is, and this will just be in terms of like making the journey more digestible.
Okay.
And I got it's a plan and a program that kind of evolved over time, but it started and was inspired by something that Colin Powell wrote in a book.
Okay.
It worked for me in life and leadership. And it was basically a whole section on don't be a busy bastard.
Okay.
And so what he was saying is society focuses on the hours in the office. And he was like, when you're done what you need to do that day, go home. I don't want to see you here at 6 o'clock. I don't want to see you here at 7 o'clock. Because what you're going to do is you're going to finish what you were supposed to do today. Maybe you finish at 3.
Yeah.
But you feel like you can't go home. So now you're going to come up with stuff to do. And now you're going to start distracting other people from what they need to do because you're being a busy bastard.
I never heard that. That's great.
Yeah. And so I broke my day up, and I have every journal to prove it. I would come up with my most important goal. Maybe it was for the year, maybe it was for 2 years. Then I would have critical and urgent for the day listed 1 through 5. Then I would have beneficial and important 1 through 5 that was not touched until critical and urgent was done.
Mm.
And then I had a timeline and everything had its own slot. And when that was done, I went home.
Mm.
And it didn't matter what time of day it was. Now, sometimes there fires happen in manufacturing plants and there's always a crisis to solve. Not saying turn your phone off. But what I am saying is you don't know how long this journey is going to take. And you're going to need every ounce of energy.
I love this.
To make it to the finish line.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're done that, and it's a part of a bigger plan, go home, recharge your battery, spend time with your family, and prepare for the next day. Because the next day is coming, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
And so that's how I sustainably kind of digested a 15-year just beat down. But that's also how I think about everything today. And when I'm talking to entrepreneurs and everything else, it's methodically get after it, but also prepare, because tomorrow's another day. You're going to have to exert the same amount of energy tomorrow that you did today. And your job is to basically get as close to 100% of what you're capable of every single day. So how are you going to do that?
Love that. Yeah.
Yep.
That reminds me of something. I use the 4 quadrants, urgent and important, not urgent, not important. And I use that to kind of figure out how to approach my day in terms of what I need to give my attention to. Yeah. How you're using it is even better in terms of figuring out where you're going to end your day, critically and important, beneficial and urgent. I love that. Last question for you. And again, thanks for taking the time today. My last question for you is, of all the things that you're involved in now, public speaking, let's put them into silos, public speaking, author, and, touring and talking about the book, and then homegrown and CEO of that, and any other ventures that you're CEO of or leading, where do you find the most gratitude? What fills your cup up the most? Is it the public speaking? Is it the homegrown? Which one of those?
Yeah, it's definitely the kind of public speaking, the Q&A with the people afterwards, and then counsel and advice to young entrepreneurs. I would say that definitely, when they call me with a question and they think their world is ending. And you just go, well, have you thought about it like this? And they're like, oh, never thought. Wow. Thank you so much. That fills your cup, because you're like, that advice was earned.
Yeah.
I have scars from being able to give you that advice.
That's great. I think that's it, Greg. I mean, I could talk to you for days and days and days. There's so much information that you've garnered over the years from your experience, and I would love to share as much of it as I could, but you have a limited amount of time, and so do I. So, man, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it. Where and how can people find you if they want to, follow you and get in touch with you?
GregoryVetter.com is the website.
Okay.
And then just social media. I'm on all the social media things.
All the ats.
All the stuff.
All the stuff. All right, Greg. Well, this has been another episode of the Flexwork Podcast. I appreciate you guys joining us. Thanks again, Greg, for joining the show. And we'll talk to you guys soon.